Okay. Wow, we're live. And what are we talking about today? We're talking about the board. As many of you guys know, the board is basically where we take 3,000, 4,000 points, signals that are happening in the marketplace that take across the pestle framework, politics, economics, society, technology, environment, legislative, and we look to see what's happening. What are these big trends that boards should be thinking about? And we apply our human distiller, our chief distillation officer, Esteban Kolsky, and he comes in and jumps in and makes it all make sense, because none of us are going to be looking at 4,000 signals. Of course, AI is involved there, but we need human distillation. We all believe that expertise is a commodity, but experience isn't. And who is more experienced than Esteban Kolsky to be able to do this? And that's who Esteban is. I'm Wang, Constellation Research, I'm one of the principal analysts here, and of course, here interviewing Esteban on what is happening in Q2. This is the board Q2. It's a summary. We try to do the webinar every quarter to kind of look at what's happening in the marketplace and to get that going. So with that, Esteban, welcome, and let's go kick it off.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for setting me up for failure. The only one who can make sense of this stuff. Oh my God, this is what I had to deliver. This is going to be fun. We got a couple things to go through today. I want to give you a really very brief summary of the quarter. Like Ray said, I read more than most people would ever read in their lives in like every week. I'm reading about 500, 600 items every week that my agents spot for me. And I try to make sense from that and summarize it. So let's start with a really brief summary. What happened over the quarter? This was the second quarter of 2026. Is when the enterprise finally got clarity on what AI means for the enterprise. We moved past the promise that AI is going to take over everything, revolutionize everything, fire everybody, and we moved to the point that we actually saw value in AI, both in genetic AI as well as agentic AI. We saw a lot of value that started to show at different places, but we also saw a lot of the problems that are coming with actually seeing value in there. First problem that we saw, models are no longer the center of the story. And I know I feel bad because we're going to be making so much money from the IPOs, but public models have a limited place in the enterprise, and they're no longer the discussion point. It's not whether it's going to be Anthropic or OpenAI or whatever it's going to be. It's about like, how do you actually create better models? We'll get more into that in a couple of minutes. Then the second part is at the board level, at the executive level, on my conversations, the issue became whether AI can become a controlled execution capability. It's all about controlling. It's about focusing in data readiness, security, infrastructure. It's not about what AI can do. And there were 4 areas this quarter that we actually spend more time in than anything else: agentic AI, infrastructure, cybersecurity, and talent. And we're going to focus on this more, as we go through. But the bottom line is very simple. In the second quarter of 2026, capability is abundant. We have so much that we can use to deliver AI, but the control execution is very, very scarce. With that, I want to share with you a short deck that I put together that gives you an idea of where we are. So first of all, I talked about controlled execution. Right? This is the theme of the quarter. You have to be able to control what computers do. This is not about letting computers run rampant. This is not about trying to figure it out. How to get it done. This is about understanding that there's components that make AI work, and we need to control and manage this. We are the people that make it happen. It's not the computers. It's not the machines that make it happen. We are the ones that need to control what happens and how it's going to happen. Right? That's the basic message in all this. And for that, I have 7 words I'm going to share with you. And the 7 words will actually give you the idea of what we actually talked about during the quarter. The first word is spending. The investment pattern changed from spending money into AI, spending money into pilots, spending money into technologies that are improving, into a portfolio discipline, into the understanding your priorities, understanding how you can get funded, understanding what's the discipline necessary to get value from this spending. It's not about just throwing money at this. It's about spending in the right place. Infrastructure became the biggest spending part of the organization in the last quarter. And the infrastructure spending is not how you should think, only about buying compute power, but it's about understanding how to create a better setup within the organization to take advantage of that compute power. Second word is about value. It's about what is the impact that AI will deliver to the organization? What are the things that we're actually going to get out of this when we put money into it? So we're going to get, shorter cycle times. Are we going to get lower costs? Are we going to get increased revenue, new business models? Are we going to get better margin? What are we looking for? What is the impact that it's going to take? I mean, in my conversations with board members and executives, impact of AI has become the key discussion that we're having. It's no longer about what we have to spend or how to get it done or what technology or infrastructure. This is no longer the case. It's about the business impact that AI can deliver. I have a series that I've been putting together in my blogs about the business value of AI, and you can find that on our website, or just reach out to me and I'll be happy to give you more. By the way, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. We want to have questions. We'll have fun sometime at the end to go through the questions. So we want to make sure that we make this a conversation, not just be presenting to you. The next word is authority. I know these pictures are awesome, right? I mean, come on, ChatGPT for the win here. But the thing is about authority. That what we learned about agents is we cannot let agents run rampant in the organization or in the internet without actually controlling what they do. We moved from capability to entitlement. So AI is no longer a capability, not as entitlement. And to create this entitlement, we need agents that can do the work. We can automate all this stuff as long as we actually have, agents that know what's the access they're allowed to do, what are the actions they're allowed to do. More important than anything else, what is the stop point where they cannot go any longer? Why do we tell how do we tell an agent, and why do we tell an agent don't do that? That's going to be critical to managing agentic AI in the enterprise going forward. The next word that we have is architecture. And architecture is no longer just about cloud. I mean, cloud native architecture is the reason we're here. Without distributed computing, none of this stuff would be possible. But how do we create an infrastructure inside the organization that allows us to do everything we want to do? You want to create an autonomous enterprise? Great. You need to set up an architecture that will actually support that. You need to automate some of your processes. You need to empower your people to do things. You need to create the architecture that's going to make that happen. All this stuff that we're talking about, all this control execution, all these things that we're talking about, it requires a very, very, very powerful architecture that this is what you people are going to be talking about. One of the things that actually happened in the last quarter more than before is CEOs took over as owners of AI in the enterprise. This used to be something that was endowed to the CIO or to the CTO or to a chief architect officer, but now it's become a business priority more than a technology priority. And then we have chief AI officers that are emerging. We have CEOs and chief of staff and the teams that are taking over this. So it's no longer about the architecture is the key, but architecture is the underlying foundation. We need to do architecture more than anything. Now, the next word is going to be fun because this is where most people get lost. The next word is context. And context, man, is so complicated to explain and to understand, but everybody thinks that they have it. Everybody's telling you about how they have context right now. Semantics layer, contextual, memory, the ability to retain state. These are all parts of context. Context is a very, very complicated thing, but context talks about, what we actually use to make sure that every single interaction that we have is unique and personalized. You cannot personalize without context. This is why the hyper-personalization times of the digital transformation era didn't succeed. It's because we didn't have context. Context using privileged information, context using privacy, confidentiality, workflow ownership, institutional memory, and all this stuff. This is what's going to create a difference between what you do for your organization and what cannot be done. Next, security. Security is where we invested the most over the last quarter. More budget shifted from AI to security in the last 3 months that I have seen in the last year before it. Security is what we actually discovered. Once we let agents run all over the organization, security becomes an issue. Non-human security, agent security, non-human identities. This is going to be a critical stage as we go through the next quarter. So keep in mind that security is going to come as a key thing. And finally, judgment. And this is my favorite slide. You've probably seen this story. Ford actually recalled 300 engineers that they had laid off before to be replaced by AI because they concluded that AI cannot do what the engineers can do. So then we are actually bringing back experience. We're not focused on expertise. Chatbots, bots, AI, they can do fantastic expertise, but expertise is commoditized. Anybody can do expertise. It's easy. Knowledge exists, expertise exists, experience is what matters. And then the word that comes after experience is judgment, because you need experience to actually exercise judgment. These are the 7 words, but there's 2 more things I want to share with you. One of them is like, the CEO AI dashboard. I've been putting this together over the last 3-4 months. I've been having a lot of conversations and a lot of presentations to do about this. But I want to share it. I like this idea of like giving one word that really matters. But there are 6 areas in the CEO AI dashboard: the business value of AI, data readiness, infrastructure readiness, governance, economics of AI, and talent. And these are the 6 areas that any CEO will actually have to measure as they move through creating and executing a strategy on AI. And I created one word from the last 3 months that applies to each one of these areas. For example, for business value of AI, the key word is growth. Back in 2023, at the end of 2023, when AI started taking off, I wrote a note that said that companies were going for growth, resiliency, and sustainability. AI threw a monkey wrench into that. Nobody cared about growth. Nobody cared about anything. We invested in AI like there was no tomorrow, and we actually did all these things. But guess what? We're back to disciplined execution, disciplined portfolio. And for that, we need to have a goal, and the goal is growth. The value of AI is going to be delivering growth to the organization, or it's not going to matter. For data readiness, the key word is authority. The agents need to be empowered. The people need to be empowered. We need to know who's doing what. We need to know how to stop it. For infrastructure readiness, balance. A hybrid network is the only way you're going to do this. Edge computing is going to become massive, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. But for that to happen, we need to do a balance between where we run the processes and how we run the processes. For governance, control. I told you before, this is about controlled execution. The economics of AI is about portfolio discipline. It's about investing in 3 different buckets. What can give me value right now, what is actually building foundational value, and what is actually building for the future. And then we got to distribute, balance the discipline to those 3. And finally, for talent, judgment. The ability to provide experience, to deliver judgment is what it's all about. One more thing that I want to share with you, and then we'll get into the takeaways, and then we go into questions here. The next quarter challenges. What are we going to be looking at, when it talks about next quarter challenges? There's going to be 4 things that you need to worry about over the next 3 months, okay? Number 1, it needs to become outcome-driven. Until now, AI has not been about becoming outcome-driven. You heard of token maxification. You heard of people that were like, everybody needs to use AI. You heard of CEOs and CTOs and HR saying, everybody, if you don't use AI, you get fired. You heard about all these things. But the reality is, for AI to succeed, the economics need to be outcome-driven. You need to know where you're going for, and you need to know how you're going to get there, right? And that's determining what the outcomes are and how you're going to get to this outcome. The second quarter challenge is going to be governed agents. You can't let your agents run rampant. The whole idea that AI is going to become sentient and singularity and all this wonderful sci-fi stuff will never happen in the enterprise. Okay, at least not in my lifetime. But my doctor says I have about 20 years, so that's the time frame there. But anyways, not in my lifetime. So, but you need to govern your agents. You need to govern what you're doing. You need to be in control of the stuff. The next one, I promise you, we'll talk more about edge computing. We are finding out that the answer to spending less in AI is doing more locally. I know, mind-blowing. If you don't have to send 6 million words to open AI so it tells you about Taylor Swift wedding, then you don't spend money that you don't need to spend. And guess what? It does happen. If you actually have something that is actually, if you send something to a public model, it will use all the information that it has. And all the information that it has will have information that is not relevant to you. So if you actually use edge computing to infer what is the actual question you're trying to do, right? So when you infer what you're trying to do on the edge computing, on the phone, on the computer, or whatever, you save money. Incredible. And finally, I talked about this before, non-human security. Cyber meets automation. If you're going to put bots out there, you need to think about how are you going to prevent that from becoming a problem. Agents could be hacked. Agents could be injected. There's many, many ways that you can get into it, but this is not what it's about. It's about preventing that problem and actually creating a better model. So what are the takeaways from this model? Sound repetitive, but it's an execution discipline. If you don't control what you're doing, if you don't become disciplined about execution, you're not going to get what you need to do. Agentic AI will require authorization, accountability, and cost before we can to scale. And if you don't scale agentic AI, don't bother doing it. There's no point in doing it for one process or two processes. It's all about scaling it. Infrastructure maturity is going to determine whether or not you're going to be sustainable. Remember that I told you there's three key words that we're going through, right? We're going to, for growth, sustainability, and resiliency. For sustainability, you need to mature your infrastructure. Finally, the only way that you're going to become the owner of your own domain on this is going to be to actually do private platforms. This is all in my report. You're welcome to read. Reach out to me. We can talk more about it. But this is the only way that you're going to remain in control and not the vendors. And finally, remember, experienced operators are very, very scarce. There's not a lot of people that can actually tell you what to do when things don't go the right way, but those are the people that you need. Data scientists, model designers, prompt engineers, those are available. The people that make the decisions, the people that understand how the decision is made and what happens when it goes the right way, the wrong way, that's what you're going to be looking for. So Q3 is going to be awesome. It's going to be about testing how this works and figure out what's the best way for the enterprise to get some value. And with that, Ray, we're going to go back to you, and let's actually go through some of the questions that showed up.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. And actually, I got a question for you. Were there any humans harmed in the creation of your slides?
There was only my brain that suffered and tried to put all the stuff together. I know,
No
here's a funny thing. Actually, since you asked the question, here's a funny thing. I'm finding myself more and more in conversations when people go like, full disclosure, I used AI to create this. So we just say, full disclosure, I would think you're stupid if you don't. I mean, the value that these LLMs and public models deliver, the productivity increase, it's amazing. I mean, all those pictures, I would have never been able to design that. And it took me 10 minutes. But finding the keywords, finding the story, finding the flow, putting it together, distilling into a coherent story, that's what humans can do. And that's what you need experienced operators.
All right, we're going to do about 3 or 4 questions, and we're going to jump in. And if you've got more questions, Esteban set up an advisory time with him. If you're not a member of the board yet, definitely let someone know. We will go to sales@constellationr.com. We can help you with that. So one of the things that we were hearing about, and this is in almost every conference we're at, is that the technology is proceeding much more quickly than human adoption. And the question really focused here is really about, what can we do about human adoption? Is that something that's just going to take 5-10 years? Is there an acceleration point? Is that just something that's a generational shift? And this was really happening because in conversations in the past, it probably took us forever to adopt whatever came out of the Industrial Revolution. It took us about 25 years to adopt what happened with the internet. And this is like everything in society and business models and where we're going, not just like the first set of things.
Yeah.
Is AI going to take the same amount of time, or do you think it's going to actually have some kind of compression in terms of human adoption?
So you want the short answer is yes to everything you said.
Yes.
The long answer is like, if you're going to be smart about it, if you're going to actually, let's go back to like the way that my conversations go, right? I talk to executives, I talk to CEOs, and they ask a similar question. How do I make sure that my people are up to speed on AI? And what I tell them is like, this takes, a portfolio approach. It takes training them. It takes finding the right people. It takes training them. It takes empower them. It takes putting in the right place. This is for the enterprise, right? And if you separate enterprise from marketplace, from like, everyday society, all this actually, trickles down. But in the enterprise, you need to find the right people. You need to empower them. You need to train them. You need to have policies and discipline for that. You need to have rules. You need to have everything set up in a way that like your people actually understand that this is important to the organization. You cannot make it a flash in the pan technology. You need to make it a discipline for the business, discipline business strategy. And when you do that, then your people start getting to the idea that it's not just delivering value today. I don't have to use AI today because my boss told me to. I found a way that AI can actually deliver value to what I do. Hey, you know what? Here's my sandbox. Sorry, one more thing. Here's a sandbox that they gave me. I can play in the sandbox and find, one more thing to do that I didn't think I could do before. I could automate this process. I could do this stuff. This is how it actually makes value.
This goes back to something you said earlier that was really important, really about what and how we work with agents and AI. In your last newsletter, in the June one, what you pointed out was this is not about automation. This is about authorized execution. Can you go deeper into that?
Yeah, it's where we started also, right? Controlled execution. Who's in charge of what? I mean, we keep living with the fantasy that in a sci-fi world, computers will take over and they'll run everything, and that's just not true. I mean, Ford brought some people back. Most companies are realizing this. IBM said that, their hiring plans are going back to people versus, putting more automation. Accenture is in the same boat. Everybody's realizing that this is not about, letting the robots and the computers run wild. So how do we do this? We need to control it. And the only way to control it is to actually create all the different aspects. The 6 elements that I mentioned that were part of the AI dashboard, that's what it comes down to. Comes down to finding the business value, comes down to data readiness, infrastructure readiness, governance, economics of AI, and talent. And the part of talent that you're talking about is not only about training, but it's training, it's empowerment, it's finding the right people, it's promoting the right people in the right place, and it's shifting your people around. There's some people that will actually have jobs that go away. But guess what? These are very talented people that understand the organization. And that understanding, that experience is what we're looking for. We're not looking for the repetition of the job. We're looking for the experience.
Now, in a lot of the work that you're doing, it's more than just AI. You're talking about what's happening with tech trends and what people are doing. AI is consuming a lot of that oxygen at the moment. But when you're looking outside of AI, what are some of the other areas that organizations are looking at, boards are still considering, that are still top of mind?
So that's a great question, because it was one of the points that I wanted to make. I was hoping somebody would ask that question, actually. We reach an inflection point with AI where it's no longer whether we do it or not, but it becomes, like I said, a disciplined approach, a disciplined execution. And when we get there, we realize that there's more technologies than AI that we need to focus on. I think that this month was the last, and if not, next month will be the last, where the biggest part of the board report will be AI. Thankfully, I'm getting tired of talking about only one thing. When we started this process about a year ago, we were talking about, frontier technologies. We were talking about supply chain. We were talking about infrastructure, and then everything moved to AI, and then from AI to infrastructure. But some of the things that are coming into view, I mentioned before, edge computing, that's becoming very powerful. 74% of CIOs think that they're going to be investing in edge computing over the next 2 years, right? Quantum is becoming interesting. Unfortunately, there's only a few, 3 or 4 industries right now, and a very limited number of use cases where it's actually applicable. But there's value, and if nothing else, the value that quantum can bring to cybersecurity by preventing, Q2K, the quantum cryptography, is also becoming very interesting. Cybersecurity is taking a significant part of this. Infrastructure and then balancing, creating a new hybrid model for architectures is becoming really interesting. So if you get past technology, which finally we're getting there, growth is becoming what we're going to discuss in the mode. Technology can help growth, but technology doesn't drive growth. Growth is driven by strategy and thinking, good thinking, and that's what we need to go through. But we cannot continue to think that AI is going to be the answer. AI is not the answer. It's one of the many parts of the answer. So we need to start moving past this into something more interesting.
No, that's a great point. And we're actually also starting to see a lot in the AI governance space. A couple of papers have been written. You'll see those coming out from Constellation. I'm going to add 2 more things. I've been traditionally talking about the need, the environment with margin compression, exponential scale, and infinite possibilities. And 2 more actually have popped up that it seemed to be taking place. One is cycle compression, the ability to do more with less. And that cycle compression is what we're feeling, is the fact that the time to market for everything has basically changed. And that's part of the exponential scale, but it's something that you're feeling, especially when the human aspect comes into how do you get a team to move more quickly. And there's a mindset change that's actually happening. If you're using AI as mindset for operational efficiency to cut costs, it's very different than if you're using AI to actually leapfrog your competition, because the motions are very different. And I think inside organizations, you have to figure out which part of the organization is actually cutting costs and what part is actually designed to actually accelerate the leapfrog. You've been hearing a lot about that, Esteban. Why is that bifurcation? Is that a K-shaped economy for AI adoption?
It is. That's the David, if you're going to have all the answers, then ask me the questions.
No.
I was just reading yesterday, actually, in the Financial Times yesterday, there was an article about the K-shaped economy for AI, the K-shaped curve for AI, where the bifurcation is value is becoming more prominent for people that actually redesign the processes, people that understand that it's a disciplined investment, versus people that just use AI. Token maxification is the downward side of the K-shape, and business value of AI is the upside curve of the K-shape. It's actually, what the funny thing is, because you mentioned cycle compression, which would have been part of my answer, because the only reason this is happening so quickly is because we compress the cycles. What used to take 2 years can be done in 3 months. What used to take 5 years can be done in 6 months, in a year now. We no longer have, and I just wrote about this, and it's going to go out over the weekend, so I'll give you a preview. We no longer have the privilege of having a year to deliver value. If you don't deliver value until 3 months, move on to the next one, because there's no value. There's not going to be able to find value on that. So this is actually one place where we're actually seeing a lot of discussions. It's like when we are making decisions for the short term, like I mentioned before, 3 buckets, right? Short term, 3 to 6 months, not a year or two, 3 to 6 months. Yep. Foundational, 1 to 2 to 3 years at the most. And then long-term growth is 5 to 10 years. So it's about building today so you can create a better foundation so you can deliver growth over the long term.
That layering is so important, Esteban. You're absolutely right. This is great. We are going to catch people in the next quarter, but you've got the monthly intelligence series that's going on. You've got from the board subscriptions. And for folks who can't find Esteban, reach him at Esteban at constellationr.com. And more importantly, you can see a lot of what he's doing if you subscribe to the newsletter. And of course, you can see some more stuff on the website. So follow us on constellationr.com. Thanks, everybody.